Imagine stepping onto a rooftop in the heart of a city, climbing into an aircraft with no engine roar, no fumes, no rotor blast. And 7 minutes later, stepping out at the airport, while everyone you left behind is still stuck in traffic. No helicopter, no runway, no pilot screaming over the noise, because there barely is any. This isn't a concept. It's an American aircraft that has already flown thousands of times, and it starts carrying paying passengers this year. Stay until the end, because the company behind it just pulled ahead of the entire world. For as long as there have been cities, there's been the dream of just going over the traffic. We were promised flying cars in the World's Fairs of the 1960s. We saw them in cartoons, in movies, in every vision of the year 2000. And every single time, reality handed us the same thing instead. More cars, more concrete, more hours of your life lost between 2 points on a map. The helicopter was supposed to be the answer, but the helicopter failed the city. It's deafeningly loud. It's wildly expensive. It guzzles fuel. It needs special pads, and it's dangerous enough that no city on Earth was ever going to let thousands of them buzz over neighborhoods. So the dream stalled. For 60 years, and then a quiet company in the hills of Santa Cruz, California, decided to solve every single one of those problems at once, and to do it with electricity. The company is called Joby Aviation, founded back in 2009 by an engineer named JoBen Beavert. For more than a decade, Joby did something almost unheard of in Silicon Valley. They stayed quiet, and they built. While dozens of competitors flooded the world with flashy press releases and computer renderings, Joby was out in the California hills actually flying. And the aircraft they built has a name that sounds modest for what it is: the S4. Here's the thing you need to understand. This isn't a scale model. It isn't a prototype waiting for a miracle. Joby has completed more than 1,000 test flights, and in 2025 alone, the testing went into overdrive. 2025 saw the most extensive and rigorous flight testing in the company's history, a 2.6 times increase in operational tempo over the previous year. This is a real flying finished machine. Now let's talk about what it can actually do. The Joby S4 is what's called an eVTOL, an electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. In plain English, it goes straight up like a helicopter, then flies forward like a plane, and it runs entirely on batteries. The specs read like science fiction. The S4 is a piloted 5-seat aircraft that can carry 4 passengers at speeds of up to 200 miles per hour, with a maximum range of 150 miles on a single charge. 200 miles per hour. Let that land for a second. Joby has registered what it believes is the fastest eVTOL test flight in history, hitting a true airspeed of 205 miles per hour. That's not a golf cart with rotors. That's faster than the fastest cars most people will ever sit in. It climbs to a maximum altitude of 15,000 feet, and it does all of this on 6 electric motors, 4 on the wings and 2 on the V-tail. And here's the genius of the design. All 6 rotors tilt forward in a vectored thrust configuration to achieve high-speed horizontal winged flight. Straight up, like a helicopter. Tilt forward. Now it's a plane. The best of both worlds in one airframe. But raw speed isn't what's going to change your life. The real revolution is something you can barely hear. This is the part that separates the S4 from every helicopter that ever flew. A helicopter clatters in at around 95 to 100 decibels. It's the reason cities ban them from flying low over homes. It's the reason air travel over the city never happened. Nobody wants a war zone over their backyard. Now listen to what Joby pulled off. Tested by NASA, the aircraft registered the equivalent of just 45 decibels from an altitude of 1,640 feet, a sound level Joby believes will barely be perceptible against the normal background noise of a city. 45 decibels. That's quieter than the conversation you're probably having near your screen right now. Even during takeoff and landing, NASA measured it below 65 decibels, about the level of a normal conversation, from roughly 330 feet away. How? The S4 uses long, specially shaped propellers that turn slowly, between 250 and 800 revolutions per minute, to create barely perceptible noise levels. That single fact is the whole game. A nearly silent aircraft is an aircraft a city will actually allow over its rooftops. Joby didn't just build a fast electric plane, they built the one that's quiet enough to be welcomed. So what does this actually mean for you? Picture a trip you already dread. Downtown to the airport. On a bad day, that's an hour stuck in a metal box on a freeway, watching the clock, sweating your flight. In the S4, that same trip becomes around 7 minutes in the air. You lift off a rooftop pad, you glide silently over the gridlock, and you touch down at the terminal before the people who left when you did have even reached the on-ramp. And this isn't a fantasy route. Joby completed the first ever point-to-point eVTOL demonstration flights in New York City between JFK Airport and Manhattan heliports. The exact trip that ruins so many travel days. They've already flown it. This is what the company means when it says it isn't selling luxury. The goal is to make flying over the city as ordinary as calling a rideshare. You open an app. A nearly silent aircraft lands on a roof. You're across town in minutes. Distance, as you've always understood it, simply stops applying. Now, you might be thinking, we've heard flying cars are coming 100 times. Why is this different? Because of one brutally hard word: certification. Anyone can fly a prototype in an empty field. The reason eVTOLs never reached you is that getting one approved to carry the public is one of the hardest things in all of aviation. And this is exactly where Joby has pulled ahead of the entire planet. On the certification front, Joby is ahead of its rival Archer Aviation. It has completed Stage 4 of the FAA's 5-stage process, started flight testing its first conforming aircraft, and is preparing for FAA pilot inspection. Joby became the first eVTOL company to finalize its certification blueprint with the FAA. Stage 4 of 5. First in the world. And the proof keeps stacking up. The company has flown over 50,000 miles, including operating test flights within the U.S. National Airspace System. In November, they began power-on testing of their first FAA-conforming aircraft, entering the final stage of certification. As Joby's own president put it, it's the culmination of more than a decade of focused engineering, and it puts them closer than ever to FAA certification. This is no longer someday. This is the final stretch. And here's where the timeline gets real. While the United States works through its final approvals, another part of the world threw the doors wide open. Joby and Dubai's Roads and Transport Authority are aiming to launch passenger carrying service in Dubai in 2026, where infrastructure and regulatory approvals are moving faster. This isn't a handshake. Joby and Dubai signed a deal allowing the U.S. company to operate air taxi services in the Emirate for 6 years. A vertiport at Dubai International Airport is part of the initial network being built specifically for the service. Joby even proved the aircraft can handle the punishment. Flight tests demonstrated full vertical takeoff and landing transitions in Dubai's extreme heat. And America is right behind it. The company is targeting initial U.S. commercial operations in the second half of 2026. The first American routes are expected to open in New York and Los Angeles, the two cities whose traffic is practically a national punchline. The dream finally has a date on the calendar. You can always tell how serious a technology is by who's writing the checks, and the names behind Joby are staggering. The airline industry is already in. A Delta Airlines partnership is strengthening the commercial rollout. The plan is to weave these air taxis directly into the airport experience. Book your flight, book your 7-minute hop to the gate, all in one. It runs deeper than airlines, too. Joby's autonomous flight technology logged more than 7,000 miles of flight in a major U.S. defense exercise over the Pacific Ocean, meaning the same technology has the attention of the American military, and the company is sitting on more than $1.5 billion in net cash, with at least a 2-year runway to scale. When airlines, the defense world, and over $1 billion all line up behind one aircraft, the message is unmistakable. This isn't a gamble on a maybe. This is an industry betting that the way we move through cities is about to be rebuilt. Step back and look at what's really happening here. For 60 years, the flying car was the symbol of a future that kept not arriving. The S4 quietly solved the 4 problems that killed it every time. Too loud, now it's barely audible. Too dirty, now it's zero-emission electric. Too dangerous, now it has 6 motors, so if one fails, the others bring it home. Too hard to approve, Now it's first in line at the FAA. Imagine a city where the sky becomes a layer of the road, where the words rush hour slowly lose their meaning, where a hospital can move an organ across a gridlocked metro in minutes, where a family doesn't lose a vacation day to a freeway, where the distance between two neighborhoods is measured in minutes again, not miles. That's not a cartoon from the 1960s anymore. It's an American aircraft in the final stage of certification, with a launch date this year. The sky above our cities has been empty for 100 years of flight. It's about to get a lot more interesting. We just watched a 60-year-old dream cross the finish line, a nearly silent, all-electric American aircraft that carries 4 passengers at 200 miles an hour, turns an hour in traffic into a 7-minute flight, and starts carrying real passengers this year. Now I want to hear from you. Would you climb into a pilot-flown air taxi and lift off over the gridlock? Or does the idea make your stomach drop? And what should we cover next? The rival racing Joby to your city, or the fully autonomous version with no pilot at all? Drop it in the comments. If this one blew your mind, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what American engineering does next. Because the sky above your city is about to open.